So we're here to talk about the question, can ads subsidize journalism? And at Secret Media, that's exactly what we're working to do. We are a technology company helping premium publishers to create a sustainable ad subsidized experience. So let's get started. So we not only believe that ads can support journalism, but we think they should for a number of reasons. First of all, today, the ad model means that users don't have to whip out a credit card every time they visit a site, which is would be a headache. I think most of us can agree, so we're blessed that we don't have to do that thanks to ads. This ease of transaction, and I think we should talk about the fact that it's a transaction for the content, means that the 3 billion global internet users have access to all this information. And that's important, you know, maybe not so much in developing countries or in developed countries, but in developing countries, you know, the purchasing power might not be enough to have them access the great content that they can today. So we'd like to keep it that way. And lastly, ads maintain the integrity of independent journalism, and I'll touch on that later. I'm sure most of you have seen this. If you haven't, this is called the Lumascape. This one's from 2015. It's brought to us by a company called Luma Partners. What you see up here is everything that is in advertising technology today. So everything from agencies to ad serving, behavioral targeting, measurement, etc., on and on and on. The problem here is that all of this is on publisher pages, whether they know it or not. And every logo you see up here adds an ad call, a ping. It's adding weight and time, and I believe Jason mentioned this. You know, it's gumming up pages. And not only is it gumming up pages, but it's opening the door to some pretty serious issues. So for the user, some of the issues are latency, again, just the time needed to load the ads and the content. It's frustrating. Second is data usage. It's a pretty legitimate concern. What is being collected? Who has access to it? You know, the privacy issue that we hear talked about a lot. And then lastly, you know, the advertising world works hard to make sure that there are KPIs on exposure, but let's face it, sometimes it's just too much. So there's a high exposure. On the publisher side, you know, again, all of these calls, all of this tracking, if all of that stays advertising focused and is used to better advertising, that's one thing, but there's the potential for data leakage and corporate espionage that is not talked about very much, but it's very easy to track what users are doing on a corporate network, for example, and to get a pretty good idea of what's happening at a company. And then malware, obviously, is a big issue as well. So at Secret Media, we did a little research. We crawled the top 100 websites around the world, and we wanted to measure what was happening with the content and the ads. What we found is that the average online article, 80% of the bandwidth was used for the ads and 20% for the content. And this is less than 140 characters, so did that on purpose. So that brings us, you know, the bottom line is that publishers have lost control of their pages, clearly. And that brings us to ad blocking. So about a year ago, we did a study with JW Player. They're one of the top video platforms in the world. They have a huge footprint. And we were focusing on measuring the time spent that was unmonetized. So I believe Jason gave a number on the number of uniques in the US who are blocking. But what's interesting is that the time spent is far higher than that. So what we calculated was that 26% of time spent was unable to be monetized. That's a big number, especially for video where CPMs are very high. What does that mean? Where are we going? Again, we've only seen ad block rates increasing linearly, but increasing, and I think they'll continue to do so. What will this number look like in the future is a big question. Well, a pretty good look is what's happening in Germany. So Germany is a very privacy-focused culture. They're very averse to to what they see as an invasion of their privacy that comes with all the tracking around ads. It's where AdBlock Plus was formed, and generally the market for ad blocking in Europe and Germany especially is about 2 years ahead of the US. So that's a pretty good look at, if we project ourselves in the future, this is a great look at the numbers we could be looking at. So how do we restore this virtuous cycle? I believe it is a virtuous cycle. I think we get back to the value that all of these three actors are getting from digital advertising and advertising generally. You know, the point and why an advertiser pays a publisher in the first place is to reach people. And they want to reach people in a positive way. They're not paying for a poor context. They're paying for a quality context. So I think today, when we think of the user perspective, you know, how many people would love no ads? Okay, I see a few hands. I think most of us have felt like this before, right? Yeah, if we could have a world with no ads, that'd be great. But that being said, how many of us have seen an ad that informed us and entertained us? Hands? I see a few. Yeah. Ads can also be informative, and that's the point, right? The advertiser is not seeking to annoy us. They're seeking to, you know, tickle us, inform us, entertain us. And the difference between the two is context, right? How is the ad served? To whom? In what context? And so where do we go from here? And others have mentioned this. The market really needs to focus on the user. You know, publishers, I think, spend a lot of time thinking about the user experience, tinkering with the look and feel. But I don't think I've ever heard the term user ad experience. And I think that user experience and user ad experience really need to be combined. They are one and the same today. Part of treating the user well is not deceiving them. And I think Jeff mentioned this, but not only can native ads be blocked, they also, to some extent, you know, deceive and betray the trust of user. You know, if journalists are being paid to write something, then that's no longer a bias-free piece of information. Whoops. There we go. So at Secret Media, our mission is to help publishers build a balanced level of monetization. So as many before me have mentioned, you know, over the years, the technologies, everything I've showed you, all those lines of code, all those ad server calls, all of that has been increasing and increasing, the number of ads and trying to maximize the revenue per page, per user. And we've passed the tipping point, right? We're way over. And the idea at Secret Media is that we allow a publisher to rebuild this equilibrium. And this equilibrium isn't new, right? If we think back to print journalism, which I don't really remember, but my parents told me about. You know, those full-page spreads filled with ads didn't work. They were thrown into the trash or used on moving day, right, to pack the china. So the overexposure to advertising not working, it's an old story. It was true of print, and it's true today. So our goal is to recreate this virtuous cycle, allow publishers to maintain their revenues, but to do so with a focus on the user. And actually, I liked the slide that Jason put up that showed all of the calls and all of the actors on any given page. You know, he mentioned that users didn't mean to do that or didn't realize all that was happening. I would go so far as to say that most publishers don't either. And they don't realize everything that's being loaded on their pages. And so our goal as a company is to give publishers the tools to see what's going on their pages and to curate the ad experience that they want to give their users so that it really is a sustainable ad experience. Yep, I'll leave you with this last slide. This is our bet, that we can decrease the ads by a factor of 10 but maintain the value. Thank you.